What happens when information becomes your deadliest weapon? Think about the last time someone completely outsmarted you. Not through force, not through luck, through pure calculated misdirection. That sting you felt? That's what losing the information war feels like. Here's something nobody teaches you in school. The most decisive victories in human history weren't won by superior firepower. They were won by superior deception. The ability to make your opponent see a reality that doesn't exist, act on false assumptions, and realize their mistake only when it's too late. Let's go back to ancient Carthage. When Hannibal faced the Romans at the Battle of Trebia, he didn't just study their formations, he studied their psychology. Romans were aggressive, proud, and predictable. So Hannibal sacrificed his cavalry in a fake retreat across a freezing river. The Romans, convinced of easy victory, charged after them straight into an ambush. Thousands of elite soldiers drowned or were slaughtered because they believed what Hannibal wanted them to believe. Fast forward to World War II. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor worked not because of military superiority, but because of deception mastery. While Japanese diplomats were in Washington discussing peace, their fleet was already sailing toward Hawaii. The Americans believed negotiations were ongoing. That belief cost them their Pacific Fleet in 2 hours. But here's where it gets really interesting for you. This isn't ancient history. This is the operating system of high-stakes competition today. Every major tech launch is surrounded by strategic leaks and misdirection. Every political campaign runs on narrative control. Every championship-level athlete studies their opponent's tendencies to exploit false expectations. The mental discipline required for strategic deception is immense. You need to think 3 moves ahead, while your opponent thinks you're thinking 1 move behind. You need to project confidence in weakness and doubt in strength. You need to become comfortable living in the gap between perception and reality. Most people lose before they even start playing because they don't understand that the game has 2 levels: the visible competition and the invisible war of information. High performers, they dominate both. Drop a comment. Weapon. What would you do if you knew your opponent's every move? Hit like if this changed how you see competition, how the greatest empires were built on strategic illusions. Let me take you inside one of the most brilliant deception operations of the modern era, one that literally changed the fate of millions. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union managed to convince the entire world they had military parity with the United States. Massive parades showing endless tanks and missiles. State propaganda showcasing technological marvels. Intelligence reports suggesting overwhelming force. Western strategists lost sleep over the Soviet threat. Defense budgets exploded. Nuclear arsenals multiplied. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. And you know what they found? Much of that overwhelming military might was theatrical. Many of those advanced weapon systems were prototypes or completely fabricated. Entire missile programs existed only on paper. The Soviets had won decades of strategic advantage, not through actual strength, but through the perception of strength. They controlled the narrative so effectively that reality became almost irrelevant. This is the difference between amateur deception and master-level strategic illusion. Amateurs lie about specific facts. Masters construct entire alternate realities so convincing that verification itself seems unnecessary. Look at another example, D-Day. Yes, I'm circling back to it because the sophistication is staggering. Operation Bodyguard wasn't just about fake tanks. They created fake radio traffic. They recruited double agents to feed false information. They even sent a British actor who resembled General Montgomery on a fake diplomatic mission to Gibraltar to be accidentally spotted. Every detail reinforced the same false conclusion. By the time the Nazis realized the truth, Allied forces had already secured the beachhead. What's the principle here? Redundancy of deception. 1 lie is fragile. 100 coordinated lies become indistinguishable from truth. This is how you build empires, dominate markets, and win impossible battles. Now bring this to your world. If you're launching a startup, don't just talk about your main product, create strategic noise about 3 other directions. If you're negotiating, don't just hide your bottom line, build an entire false narrative about your alternatives. If you're competing for a promotion, Don't just work hard, control how your work is perceived by everyone who matters. High performance isn't just about doing great work. It's about ensuring the right people know it, believe it, and act on it, while your competitors are still figuring out what game is being played. Comment. Illusion. Where in your life do you need better strategic positioning? Subscribe if you're ready to level up your mental game. Why? Your biggest advantage might be what you don't reveal. Here's a truth that'll make you uncomfortable. Transparency is overrated. Actually, in high-stakes environments, it can be fatal. The ancient Japanese warrior tradition understood this deeply. They had a philosophy called sun and shadow, the idea that what you show is as important as what you conceal. A samurai never revealed his true skill level until the moment of engagement. Showing all your capabilities early meant giving away every advantage. Let's jump to something more recent. The Manhattan Project. Thousands of people worked on building the atomic bomb, but the compartmentalization was so extreme that most didn't know what they were actually building. Scientists working on different components had no idea how their work connected. This wasn't just security, it was strategic obscurity. The fewer people who understood the complete picture, the less likely information would leak, and the more devastating the surprise when that bomb finally dropped on Hiroshima. Now, here's where this gets tactical for you. In corporate environments, the people who rise fastest aren't always the most skilled. They're the ones who understand information asymmetry. They know when to reveal expertise and when to play dumb. They know when to take credit and when to stay invisible. They're masters of strategic ambiguity. Think about poker champions. Phil Ivey, one of the greatest ever, became legendary not for his wins, but for being unreadable. His opponents never knew if he was bluffing or holding the nuts. That uncertainty became his weapon. Every hand became psychological warfare. That's high-performance deception, making your opponent guess wrong more often than they guess right. Or consider how intelligence agencies operate. The CIA has a term, wilderness of mirrors. It refers to the deliberate creation of confusion where truth and lies become indistinguishable. When your enemy can't tell what's real, they become paralyzed by analysis. They waste resources chasing ghosts while you execute your real strategy unopposed. The principle is universal. Controlled opacity gives you room to maneuver. Total transparency means your moves are predictable. And in any competitive arena, predictability equals vulnerability. So ask yourself, what advantages are you giving away by revealing too much too soon? What power could you gain by mastering the art of strategic concealment? Comment. Shadow. What's one thing you should stop revealing to competitors? Like this? If you're building your strategic mindset, how mastering precision deception separates winners from everyone else. Let's bring this home with the question that matters. How do you actually apply this without becoming someone you hate? The answer lies in understanding intent versus technique. The technique is neutral. It's a tool. A scalpel can save lives or take them. What matters is why you're wielding it. During the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong mastered guerrilla deception not through advanced technology, but through disciplined strategy. They built elaborate fake tunnel systems that led nowhere while hiding real ones. They set up dummy camps that drew American airstrikes away from actual positions. They won not because they were stronger, but because they made their opponents waste resources fighting shadows. That's not evil. That's survival against a superior force. That's turning disadvantage into advantage through mental discipline and strategic thinking. Or look at hostage negotiation. When FBI negotiators work with kidnappers, they use tactical empathy, making the suspect feel understood and in control while systematically removing their options. They're not being honest about the situation. They're creating a psychological environment where surrender becomes the most appealing choice. The result? Lives saved without bloodshed. That's precision deception in service of a higher goal. Here's your framework. Use strategic deception for protection, advantage, and efficiency. Never for harm, exploitation, or unnecessary manipulation. The line is clear when you check your intentions. In negotiations, don't reveal your deadlines. In competition, don't broadcast your innovations until execution. In conflicts, don't show all your cards before understanding the full game. This isn't dishonesty, it's operational security. This is how you protect what you've built and create space to build more. The greatest strategists throughout history shared one trait. They controlled what others knew about them. They shaped perception deliberately. They understood that in a world where everyone is gathering information, the person who controls that information controls outcomes. You can keep playing with full transparency, believing the world rewards fairness, or you can wake up to how high performers actually operate and start building your strategic advantage today. The choice has always been yours, but now you have the map. Comment. Advantage. What's your next strategic move? Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to level up their game. Disclaimer: this content is educational and historical in nature. The goal is to analyze strategies used in historical contexts and their ethical application in negotiations and personal development, not to encourage dishonest or harmful practices.